Hi, I'm Graham Lasso, and you're listening to Eat, Sleep, Chelsea, Repeat with Chris, Craig and Brady.
Sleep, Chelsea, repeat. Sleep, Chelsea, repeat. Eat, sleep, Chelsea, repeat. Eat, sleep, Chelsea, repeat.
All right, welcome back to Eat, Sleep, Chelsea. The headline this week, and it's really the question hanging over the whole club right now, is this Chelsea team actually good? It's our season preview episode. Before we get going, you'll notice that things are looking a little bit different around here. If you've seen us on X recently, or you see our thumbnails or stuff on YouTube, we've had a little rebrand. Things are looking bright. Things are looking in the theme maybe of Chelsea's new kit a little bit in terms of colours, and maybe we'll match that every season going forward. Let's see. It's a solo pod today for me. There's no Brady. He's away on holiday, enjoying the sunshine somewhere, although there's been a lot of sunshine in the UK as well recently, but he's out there enjoying his holiday, and it's just going to be me talking through everything that's happened in pre-season, sort of doing a full season preview and talking about the squad as a whole. All the business still left to do in terms of maybe a couple of ins, but mostly just a lot of outs. And also we'll have a little look ahead to the Fulham game at the end of the episode, which is 5 days away now, and the Premier League season just a couple of days away. Exciting stuff. So let's wrap up the pre-season, sort of everything that's been going on in a little nutshell here. 6 friendlies played, 3 wins, a draw and 2 losses. It's been up and down. There's definitely been a lot of positives under Xabi Alonso, some negatives. We've got a lot more of an idea of how we're playing right now, and sort of what the team will look like going forward. A lot of question marks on whether it would be a 4 at the back or 3 at the back. I actually think he doesn't really care, Alonso, what we think or what it's going to look like at times. I think it'll be sort of a mixture of both. I think you'll see sometimes we'll look like we're playing 4 at the back, and you even saw that against Real Sociedad on Saturday, that Fofana was almost playing like a right back, a pure proper right back, and getting up the wing when he was the right centre back in the 3, which was what it would look like on paper. So I think we'll be quite fluid. I think there's been a lot of focus on that, and it's not really super important. The preseason overall, 16 goals scored and 11 conceded. I mean, I think the attack looks really promising. I think everyone's pretty happy with that front 3 of Palmer, Rodgers, and João Pedro. I think defensively there's definitely some question marks, although we haven't had everyone fit, and Lacroix obviously playing his first game as a partnership with Colwell against Sociedad at the weekend. I think everyone's happy with the Xabi Alonso hire. I think you can't say anything but positive things. I think he's the best manager we could have got. I think we've talked about that before. So I think going into this season, there's a lot of optimism, and that's reflected in the Athletic fan optimism chart, where Chelsea sit near the top for the second year running. Hopefully we can do a little bit more than finish 10th, which is what happened last season. All right, let's talk about the outs a little bit as we look at the squad overall. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see that we've got the full squad out here. But if you're listening on podcast episodes, we'll just talk about the additions, which are Palestra, Lacroix, Henderson, Rodgers, Quenda, Omega, and Welbeck. I think there's a big running theme that you see through the additions that we've made, and that is physicality and athleticism. Sorry, I missed Chavaria as well. I think that has been a theme of the recruitment, and you can clearly see that they've tried to focus on adding those elements to the squad. I think the squad, even last season, was a really talented team, but was it savvy and physical enough to compete at the top end of the Premier League? And I think that question got answered as a pretty clear no when you look back at last season. So I think they've done a good job of definitely strengthening the first 11 from sort of the weakest positions. I think that right centre-back spot and the left wing spot, I think Morgan Rodgers and Lacroix are both very, very solid additions to the first 11. But they've also done a good job of sort of rounding out the rest of the squad in terms of players that are relatively experienced and got games under the belt. So there's a bit more of a known aspect, but maybe don't have the ceiling of players that Chelsea would have signed in the first phase of recruitment under under Clear Lake. So on the right-hand side here, there's a few players obviously we need to think about that are going. We'll switch to sort of the what I think the lineup will be against Fulham, and then also the subs. But Nico Jackson, I think, is one that looks like he's on his way out. I think Villa today are potentially selling Ollie Watkins to Saudi. I think that clears a clear path for Nico Jackson. I think the history is there from Emery with Jackson. I think he's a great fit for how Villa want to play, that pace in behind. I actually think he's an upgrade on Ollie Watkins for where Watkins is at this point in his career. So I think that'll get done on deadline day. I'm pretty sure Nico Jackson's off to Villa. Delap, we've heard that wants to stay in the Premier League. We'll see where he ends up. Everton, I think, seems like a good fit for him, but let's see. Mikhailo Mudryk should get a decent Premier League loan. Toss in, who knows where he's going. But those are sort of the main four that really need to be sorted outside of, obviously, the big talking point, which is Enzo Fernandez, which I won't spend too much time talking about. I think you might see City push for him at the end of the window, and if he does, we'll find a replacement midfielder. I think the names have all been out there already. Wharton, Alex Scott from Bournemouth, and I think one that's a little under the radar that people haven't talked about is Zubamendi from Arsenal. I think that they will sell him if we make a good offer, and he's obviously got the Sociedad links with Xabi Alonso as well. I think I can see that one happening if we sell Enzo. So let's see on that. But the rest of the squad, I think, is pretty set. I think Sanchez and Penders are going to be the goalies. I think Alonso has been relatively happy with that. I think Penders has looked decent in his minutes that he's got, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see. He'll obviously get the cup games. I think whether he can really push Sanchez at any point in the season to start games. I really like Penders, and I think he's got a chance to be established by the end of the season. But we'll see on that. Sanchez is a good fit, I think, Sanchez for Alonso's system, because he's not asking the goalkeeper to play out so much from the back as maybe Maresca did. We've seen a lot of long balls in pre-season. So yeah. Gusto is another one that we probably need to talk about maybe going, but we haven't heard any rumours of anything recently. Achampong looks like he's staying, but obviously could go. Sugo is one that I think could leave on loan. But outside of that, I think everyone else is pretty set, and sort of will be bench players against Fulham, apart from Henderson, Omega, and Fofana, who are, well, Henderson and Omega are injured, and Fofana is suspended for the first 2 games of the season. So yeah, a lot of work still to do with the squad, mostly in terms of outgoings, but I think in terms of signings, everything seems pretty set for what we are going to look like, and I think we're hitting the ground, decently running, with a couple of our best performances coming recently against Sociedad and AC Milan, 3-0 and 3-1 respectively. So yeah, I think people are feeling pretty good coming into the season, and I think you can see that reflected in both the fan optimism. You can see that reflected in the bookies odds, which I think Chelsea are 4th favourites to win the Premier League, down to probably between 7 and 8 to 1 right now to win the Premier League, with most bookies, which is the shortest price, or second shortest price Chelsea have been since 2018 to win the Premier League. So even though progress wasn't shown on the pitch last year, I think the implied probability would show that I think there has been some progress with this squad and manager overall coming into the season, and that optimism is obviously reflected with the fans as well. And there is a little bit of excitement and buzz, obviously, with no Europe. We'll see where this Chelsea squad end up. I want to talk about a few players that have a chance to, what I would say, make the leap in this upcoming season. I think one of them is Levi Colwill. I think he is a massive miss from last season that people forget about. He is almost like a brand new signing. I think when you look at our centre-back duo going into the season of Colwill and Lacroix, that's a huge step up from what we had last season. And Colwill is a fantastic player. I think going into last season, he was ready to make a big leap and to be considered one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League. And I think with a good season this year, I think we'll look at it very positively. And he's also, I think, a good candidate for sort of vice captain behind Reece. I wonder if that'll be given to him straight away. I know Enzo got the armband when he came on Saturday, but I think Colwill has got a chance to not only establish himself as one of the best centre backs in the Premier League, but also one of the big leaders in the squad. Number 2 is João Pedro. I think he gets a little bit of disrespect. I think we talked last season about how good he was, obviously second to Haaland in terms of open play goals from strikers in the Premier League. I think when I hear pundits talk about Chelsea coming into the off-season, they were talking about us needing a striker, which is completely different to sort of my outlook. I think João Pedro pretty firmly established himself as R9, and that he had some interest from Barcelona, and the club came out definitively and said that he's not for sale at any price. He's untouchable. So I think that shows what the club think of him, as well as being able to sign a new contract, which he just has done today, I think, in terms of getting a pay rise, and he's staying till 2033 now. But he is a player that I think isn't talked about right now as top 5 strikers in the world. But by the end of this season, he could make that leap to be talked about in the conversation with Haaland, Kane, and all the other top sort of 9s in the world. Remember, João Pedro is only 24 years old. He really can take a big, big leap this season and establish himself. So I'm expecting a massive season from João Pedro. And the third one is the Cole Palmer revival season. Can Cole Palmer take a massive step? We've heard Xabi Alonso talk so positively about him in the off season that he's a player, we need to find in spaces, we need to build around. He's not had an amazing preseason in terms of output, but obviously he's got the work in. He looks slightly fitter. I don't know whether he is quite back to himself and whether we'll ever see him back to that Pochettino season that he had, where he seemed to be sort of in and around the box continuously. I think he'll play a slightly different role, but I think will we see a Cole Palmer revival season? Let's see. All right, give ourselves a few predictions going into the season. Brady obviously couldn't be here, but he has given me his prediction going into the season, which is that Chelsea will finish 3rd in the Premier League, which I think is a common prediction. I think I've seen that a lot. People that have been posting their predictions the last couple of days, I've seen a lot of people with Chelsea as 3rd. Obviously, the no Europe factor, big step that we can take. I have predicted Chelsea to finish 3rd as well. I think they are. There is a world where Chelsea can take a bigger step up from that, and there's also some outcomes where I think Chelsea will finish sort of 4th, 5th. I'd be very surprised if we finish lower than 5th, but let's see on that. I think the teams that sort of need to take big leaps from last season for Chelsea to do that are sort of Newcastle, Spurs. And although I'm quite high on Spurs in general, I don't think that they can sort of take the leap into the sort of 3rd, 4th area from 17th. But you never know. De Zerbi is obviously a great manager. In terms of the cups, I think 1 cup semi-final from Brady. I think Chelsea can make a real run at the FA Cup. I know obviously you lost the final last season to Man City, but I think that, again, just focus on what the squad is going to be focused on as we get down to that FA Cup run. With no Europe, I think it's a great opportunity for us to win something like the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. And I think Chelsea will be really focused on that as well, to bring silverware back to the club. Alonso will be thinking that, the Carabao Cup is a statement win when you can win it sort of halfway through the season. So, yeah. Brady's gone for a cup semi-final. I'm going to go for a cup win for Chelsea this season. I'm not sure if it's going to be the Carabao or the FA Cup, but I think 3rd and a cup win for Chelsea this season is going to be my prediction. I think fan optimism at the start of every season is normal, but I do think there is a lot of justification for Chelsea fans to be excited coming into the season. In terms of one signing that is successful, I think the easy low hanging fruit is Morgan Rogers. Obviously, 117 million pounds. I think he's going to be playing 90 minutes a game after the first couple of games. I don't see him being subbed in any games. I think we've already seen in the Sociedad game that he's going to score some goals this season that he wasn't able to score in Villa's team last season, which is sort of the tap-ins and the easy finishes. We've all seen the goals that Rogers scored last season, some of which were absolutely fantastic. But playing for a club that probably would have more sustained pressure on goal, and he's going to be able to box crash at that back post. I think 100% of the, for sure, you'll see whether it's Esteval Quenda or Neto on that right-hand side, cut back to that sort of half space on the right and whip a back post cross in, and you'll see João Pedro, Morgan Rogers, and Palestra, who's playing left wing back at the moment, but whoever it is that's playing, crashing that back post. I think you'll see that happen a lot this season for Chelsea. And yeah, I think Rogers is going to pick up some easier goals from that sort of style of play. So I think, yeah, a signing to be successful, an easy one, but Morgan Rogers. If we're going to pick a signing to flop, yeah, I think it's pretty easy to say Danny Welbeck. I think, again, you're going to see João Pedro play a lot of 90s. So I just wonder whether we're going to look back on Welbeck and think, was he that valuable a signing? Obviously, I think it looks like Omega is going to be staying as the sort of third striker option. I actually quite rate Omega, and I think if he performs well in the cup games, he could be the sub that comes on for instead of Welbeck in some of these games. So I understand obviously the premise of bringing older players in for experience, dressing room, training, the culture around the club, and maybe to try and stop sort of the losing streaks that we've had around Christmas time in both our previous seasons under Maresca, where a couple of bad results, the confidence has really gone. The away games we've been really weak in. You think about Leeds away last season, in that December period where we just turn up and just get, dog walked by a Leeds team that are well up for it, and we are well below par. I think that's the reason that players like Welbeck and Henderson have been signed, is to sort of raise that floor and to get players to show up in these sort of medium level away games that I think Chelsea have struggled in recently. But yeah, in terms of production, I'm not sure Danny Welbeck is going to be a guy that really makes much impact on the pitch, considering that he got 13 goals for Brighton last season. I don't think he'll be getting anywhere near that output, but we'll see. All right, let's talk a little bit about Fulham. I've kept this team up on the YouTube page, which is Sanchez in goal, Neto at right wing back / right wing, James at right centre back. Fofana played there against Sociedad, but he is suspended for this game. Lacroix at centre back, Colwell at left centre back, and Palestra playing left wing back. Then I've gone for a double pivot of Caicedo and Enzo, which is quite a polarising thing amongst Chelsea fans. I think when we say that that's not worked before, I think that's a little bit harsh. I don't think we've seen it enough to definitively say that it's not worked. And I would like to see that under Xabi Alonso. And you give Enzo that role of sort of dictating and being that controller. And if we do sell Enzo, I think that will be a player like Zubimendi, who sort of just keeps things ticking over in midfield next to Caicedo. And then obviously the front three of Rogers, Palmer, João Pedro, I think that's going to be three players that are going to build their chemistry and play together a lot of minutes this season, if not 90 in almost every game. So I think that team's really good. I think, there's a lot to be excited about. I think we've talked a lot in this podcast already about just the excitement for the season to start and the excitement to see sort of what this team can be. And I think excited for the Fulham game on Monday night for sure. In terms of predictions, I'm going to go 3-1 Chelsea in this game. I think the team's clearly got goals in it at the moment. I think Fulham are a team that have lost a few players, obviously Harry Wilson being the most important one, but also a sort of, I think, with the change of manager to Arbeloa, are going to feel like they're learning on the job a little bit and learning a sort of a system that I think they want to build on, as opposed to getting in a more pragmatic coach that can sort of get a big result on opening night against us. I think the game will look pretty good from us, and I think we will be feeling positive come 10 p.m. on Monday. But let's see. Regardless of that result, we will be back reviewing the game. I guess the podcast will come out this week on Tuesday, because usually we do it Monday nights, but obviously Chelsea are playing Monday night. So yeah, look back on the game. As always, thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, leave us a podcast review to start the season. That would be really, really helpful. And yeah, as always, we hope you're carefree wherever you may be. And thanks for listening.